last week's Wednesday's lesson, we were doing analytical geometry. All right, analytical geo. So this is just a recap of what we were doing, but we're doing a challenge question today. Okay, and this question says here, determine the midpoint of the line ST with coordinates. That's S's coordinates and that T's coordinates. So you're going to use the midpoint formula. Let's see if anybody can get the midpoint. I can assume that the midpoint is going to include a P or an N somewhere in the answer. Don't be afraid for there to be a P and an N in the answer. Okay, so go ahead and see what your answer would look like, guys. Yes, and if anybody has an answer, you can pop your favorite emoji in the chat. We're just going to give it a second. Hello, Pascal. All right, if anybody's got an answer, or you can even write in the chat, yo, ma'am, I'm stuck. I don't know where to start. Okay, I think that might be the best. If you guys aren't sure how to start the question, you can easily just type in the chat, ma'am, what in the world is going on here? Okay. Sure, Pascal is done. Hi, Pascal, that's awesome. Let's just see if you have an answer. Yes, Remo, your answer should have letters. Okay, it should have letters in it. So if your answer has letters in it, you're on the right track. Okay, because that's exactly what we're looking for here. Okay, so we're going to use the midpoint formula, guys. Remember, the midpoint formula says the midpoint of ST would be x1 plus x2 over 2, and then we'd get y1 plus y2 over 2, right? So we can name these. We can call this one x1 and y1, and this one x2 and y2, right? Y2, right? So all we're going to do, guys, is we're going to substitute. We're going to say the midpoint of ST. My x1 is 3p squared plus negative 7p squared over 2. And then my y1 value is 2n plus negative 4 over 2, right? So the answer I would get over here, that positive and negative will give me a negative. So the midpoint of ST would be 3p squared minus 7p squared over 2 and 2n minus 4 over 2. Asbonge, I feel like you can finish this one for me. Hi, Asbonge, what's up? Hello, Asbonge.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Masudi. Can you finish up for me, or do you have a question?
Ma'am, please continue. I have a question, but I'm going to see at the end.
Okay, all right, my sweetie. Okay, I'm going to finish up the answer now. Okay, so the midpoint of ST would be negative 4p squared over 2. And over here, I would just get 2n minus 4 over 2. All right, so now I know I can divide both of these by 2. Over here, with the 2n minus 4, I'm just going to take 2 out as a common factor. So for my x value, I'm going to get the midpoint of ST is negative 2p squared. That's my x value. And over here, if I take 2 out as a common factor, I'm going to have n minus 2 left. The 2's will cancel. Therefore, my y value would be n minus 2. All right. And that's the answer we would get. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you got somewhere near this. Anybody got anywhere near the answer that I have on the screen? Anybody? Nobody at all? Oh, guys. Okay, we've got to remember. Okay, there we go. I've got 2 thumbs up, and that gives me hope. Okay, I need to add those 2. All right, we are on lesson 7 of 8. So if you're wondering where to find lessons 1 to 6, you will find those on our website where you can then watch or catch up with what we're doing. But these are kind of nice because we're doing revision of all the things that you've done in term 1 and term 2. So if you're looking for just a recap to remember how to do certain things, then you can also do that. All right. Okay, so we're going to do a quick functions revision, and I have to announce this. Drum roll, please. We have a brain break today. Oh, Teacher Coco, you're the best. Brain break. Woo woo. We actually have a brain break today, guys.
We have a brain break.
Just like miracles. They do they not? I mean, the sun is shining today. It's a winter's day and the sun is shining because Teacher Coco finally put a brain break in. And Remo, the fact that you don't know what a brain break is says a lot about the fact that we've never had a brain break. So it's a big momentous moment. We used to have brain breaks all the time. We will have one today. Yes, Jasmine.
Shall we explain to Remo what's a brain break?
Okay, I'm going to ask you to put your hand up after I've explained this first part, and then you can explain what a break. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
All right. Awesome. Thanks. Like class monitor Jasmine is always on it, guys. She's always on it. Okay. So we're going to start by looking at the functions revision, and we're looking at the functions of graphs. Okay. We're looking at the functions of graphs. All right, so the first graph we're going to come across, y is equal to mx plus c. It's a straight line graph, and we're very familiar with this. Now, who can remind me, guys, what does the c over here stand for when we talk about y is equal to mx plus c? Good. Good, it's the y-intercept. Excellent, guys, it's the y-intercept. All right, okay, so this is the y-intercept. Right, so when we are looking at solving for a straight line graph, we always need to look for the y-intercept because that's the c value that we're going to get here. Now, we know that when we look for the y-intercept, x needs to equal what? X needs to equal? Good, Remo. Excellent, Anna. Hi, Anna. Good. We know that x will equal to 0, right? So we also know that we can also find an x-intercept. And what do we know happens at the x-intercept, guys? At the x-intercept, what? Good, y is equal to 0, excellent, y is equal to 0. Now, when we use a graph to plot these two things, we are actually using something called the dual intercept method. Okay. Dual intercept method, where we find 2 points and then we take our ruler, join them together, shoop, and that's going to draw a straight line for us. And then teacher Nelly conveniently reminded me that whenever we solve for these, we also need to find this duty. What is this guy? What is M? X, yo, Remo, you're on fire today. Excellent stuff. It's the gradient. It's the gradient. And we know that the gradient can be expressed as M is equal to, and we'll always have 2 points. The gradient will be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, excellent stuff. All right, so we know we need all of these in order to find the equation of the straight line, right? Then the next one that we have is a parabola, or as somebody pointed out, a parabola, because then we know that it's actually a bowl, right? A parabola, because it's shaped like a bowl, parabola. Okay, not a very no, my freebie. Okay, good. We know that the equation for a parabola is y is equal to ax squared plus q. And if my a is positive, then my graph is a smiley face. And I have to draw in my little eyes. There we go, it's a smiley face. And if my A is negative, yep, concave up, beautiful, then it's going to be a sad face. How do you guys like my drawing today? I think my art skills are improving. I think I like it. Yes, Jasmine, you can just unmute and tell me it's getting better, right? It's getting better. I think my
it's improved. It looks cute,
right? I know my frowny face looks, yeah. Mirula, stick man. How dare you? Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's cool. All right. So we know that when we are looking at when we look at a parabola, we will also find a y-intercept, right? We will always find a y-intercept. And we know that at the y-intercept, x needs to equal to 0. And for a parabola, we know that we will also find x-intercepts. There'll be more than one most times, right? Or maybe just one. We can get 2 or we can get 1. And in that case, y will also be equal to 0, right? And what do we know about this q value over here, guys? What does the q value actually tell us? What is it? Anybody remember? Anybody? It's not the asymptote. As bonge, parabolas don't have the asymptote, right? Intercept, no, not quite the intercept, guys. Think about it. What is my parabola? What is the defined feature of my parabola? That's it, Fatima. Beautiful. It's the turning point. Excellent. It's not just the turning point, guys, though. This is the y value of my turning point. Okay. The y value of my turning point. All right. So we know that we'll get some other x value. In grade 10, we know that that x value will be 0, and then our q will be the turning point where it's the y-intercept, basically. But I don't want you guys to get used to the fact that it's the y-intercept. It's not always going to be the y-intercept. All right, so I want us to look at one more thing. Now, if let's say, for instance, I'm calculating for my x-intercepts, and I find that I have no x-intercepts. If I have no x-intercepts, that means that my graph is a floater. Okay, it's called a floater. And what that means is I'm going to have my turning point over here, and my graph will do this. Okay, it's a floater in that it does not touch the x-axis. Okay, if I don't get any x-intercepts, that means my graph doesn't touch the x-axis and it's called a floater. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Awesome, guys. Amazing, awesome stuff. Okay, cool. So this is everything that we need to know about a parabola. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one would be a hyperbola. Hyperbola. All right, now we know that the formula for a hyperbola is y is equal to a over x plus q. And what is the defining thing about a hyperbola? What is the defining thing about a hyperbola? Now, Asbonge, that thing that you'd mentioned before, this is where it actually comes into play. Do you remember what it was? Yes, Jasmine.
The hyperbola is the only graph of fraction, isn't? And it has the asymptotes.
Beautiful, that's it. It has asymptotes, more than one actually. It has an x and a y asymptote. Okay, nicely done. Do we remember, Jasmine, what our x asymptote is? X is equal to what? Or what can x not be equal to? Good, yes, excellent, guys. That's it, Liabona, well done. Good, Mirula. Yes, x cannot be equal to 0. So the graph of my first asymptote is x is equal to 0. And what about my y asymptote? Y would be equal to what? Where do we find the y asymptote? I'll give you guys a hint. It's the thing that moves my graph up and down. Which value is that going to be? The thing that moves my graph up and down?
Your q value.
That's it. Beautiful. The q value. Oh, Jasmine. Okay. That is the q value. So y is equal to q. All right. Somebody's saying, I'm a bit lost. What is an asymptote? Okay. So an asymptote is basically the thing that my graph cannot touch. Okay. So my graph can't touch it. And I'm going to show you what's going to happen in just a bit. Okay, so the reason we say that x cannot be equal to 0 is because anything divided by 0 is undefined. So if x is then 0, this whole function or this whole hyperbola is going to be undefined. So my graph cannot touch the point where x is equal to 0. Okay, and that's what an asymptote is. An asymptote is basically the part of the graph that that it cannot touch, or the part of the Cartesian plane that my graph can't touch. Okay, so this is what normally happens. All right, so I know that this A over here can either be positive or it can be negative. Now, if it's positive, which two quadrants would this graph fall under? Yes. Okay, I'm going to explain Asbonge. I'll show you now. Okay, it is x is equal to 0 because it's the equation of the asymptote. All right, if it's positive, guys, which two quadrants will it fall into? Good, Atlechang. Hello, Atlechang. Excellent. It would fall into 1 and 3. That's it, Gile. Excellent. Good. So we would have the first and the third quadrant. And if A is negative, which two quadrants would my graph fall into? That's it, you Andre. Beautiful. That's it, Imelda. Nice job. Good. So 2 and 4 quadrants, 2 and 4. Okay. So I'm going to draw the graph very quickly, just a visual representation of what we're talking about over here. All right. So Give me 1 second, guys. I just need to answer this. Okay. So if it is positive, remember we're going to mark here quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Now, my asymptote, the reason I write x is equal to 0 is because this is my x-axis. This is where everything is equal to 0. So where x is equal to 0 is everywhere along this line. So it's a straight line at, oh, no, look at me lying to you guys. Okay, it would be here. At x is equal to 0 would be everything along this line. Okay, and then when y is equal to q, dependent on where it raises up to, let's just say, for instance, q is over there, that will then be the line is equal to, y is equal to q. So that's the value of q over there. Yes, Jasmine.
That the asymptotes also can be called vertical or horizontal based on what's being asked.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so we always look at it. The easiest way for me to remember it is the y asymptote must cut the y-axis and the x asymptote must cut the x-axis. Okay, so we can call them horizontal and vertical. If you're used to that, the x asymptote would be the vertical and the y asymptote would be your horizontal. Okay, so now if I had to draw the positive hyperbola, it would look like that in 1 and 3, quadrant 1 and 3. And if I had to draw the negative hyperbola where my a is negative, it would be in quadrants 2 and 4. And for those of you who are asking, what is the asymptote? Do you see how my graph curves? As soon as it gets close to these lines, it starts curving. That's basically what's happening there. Okay. All right. So then we're going to have our last one, which is, oh, I'm lying. Guys, there's also an x-intercept and a y-intercept here, guys. Yo, look at me lying to you guys. Why did I forget such a thing? X-intercept, y is equal to 0, and our y-intercept, as always, x is equal to 0. This one will also have x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Okay, then we'll have exponential graphs. Exponential. Right. So our exponential graph will read y is equal to a times b to the power of x plus q. And the reason we know that it's exponential is because our x value is the exponent. And that's how we know that it's an exponential equation. Okay. Now, what does the exponential graph have, guys? Anybody remember? Same as our hyperbola, what does the exponential graph have?
An asymptote.
Beautiful. Yes, an asymptote. Thank you, Teacher Jasmine. Oh, no, I'm calling you Teacher Jasmine again. Sorry. Okay. Yes, class monitor Jasmine. Excellent. Yes, it also has an asymptote. Now,
Yes.
the asymptote of our exponential graph will be this q value over here. Okay. So y is equal to q will be our asymptote for our exponential. All right. So now we know a couple of things, guys. Here are a couple of things that we need to note. We need to note that a cannot be equal to 0, because if a is equal to 0, this whole thing is going to become 0, and then I'm going to have a graph, right? And we also know that b cannot be equal to 0, right? Because this whole thing again will then be equal to 0 and I won't have a graph. And also b cannot be equal to 1, because if this b is equal to 1, then I'm just going to have 1 to the power of 1 and 1 to the power of 2 and 1 to the power of 3 and 1 to the power of -4 and 1 to the power of -7. And all of it is just going to be 1. So I'm only going to get a straight line at y is equal to 1. That's not a graph either. So we won't have any of that there. All right, so we know that our graph cannot be any of those things, right? So we know that we're going to get 3 different types of graph for an exponential. I'm just going to add them in here quickly. Okay. Okay, there we go. And then the last one. Okay, and all of these are quite important. All right, here we go. All right, so this is going to tell us exactly what happens when each of our graphs does something funny. Okay, so if my A is positive, then my graph will increase going up like this. Okay, if my A is negative, then my graph will decrease. It will go down like that, right? Now, if my B value, if the value for B over there is in between 0 and 1. So any number like a half or a third or a quarter or a fifth, anything along those lines, then my graph will increase, but it will increase in that direction. It will go up that way. Okay, and that is if B is in between 0 and 1. Okay, give me a thumbs up. Everything that we've done today makes sense? Everybody with me? Okay, again, over here, guys, do not forget x-intercept and y-intercept. We're going to get those. All right, I'm going to give you guys a second to take a quick screenshot of everything we've done because we're about to put it into practice in a little bit. So take a screenshot, everybody. You've got 10 seconds. Okay. All right, are we all happy? Awesome stuff. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, excellent. So take a screenshot, guys. I need to find an energy source. So I need to move one room to the other. So Teacher Nels, are you okay to share your screen quick? Okay, so Teacher Nels is going to do the brain break with you guys. You can see I'm sitting in the dark. I don't know why. It shouldn't be load shedding. So I need to change rooms. Teacher Nels, can you share your screen? Are you able to? Sure. And the funny thing is, today my thingy is back. Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay. No, go back. 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 Go back.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Okay.
So teacher is going to be teaching us about repuzzle today, right? So any of you who are interested in doing anything in like visual arts or advertising or anything of the sort, Rebus puzzles are kind of the thing that you want to be able to use to do that. Okay, so what repuzzles do is they basically take words and they translate them into something that is, or they take pictures and words and they translate them into something different. Okay, so he's going to take you through some of these. I think Mirula's already given the first one away. It says too close. I'm quickly going to switch rooms. Guys,
Teacher Coco is still here. Okay. Since Mira has already given us the answer for the first one, which is like 2 close, 4 compass, because we have 2 close and 4 compass. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, any guesses? Oh, yes, Kile, Remo, you got that one right. 1 in a million. These are easy, right? These are so easy. Okay. Yeah, I agree, Mirula. And then this one. I think the other class took like a minute to get this one. I hope you guys will get it right away. What do you think? Stand over eye. Amber. Oh, Pascal, you're almost there. You're almost there, just missing one thing. Oh yeah, I understand. Well done, Mashubi. I understand. That's the one. Well done, guys. Yes, there you go, Pascal. Okay. Let's see the next one. Okay. Any guesses? What do you think, guys? Oh, no, this is so easy. Just like right away, scrambled eggs, because the word eggs is scrambled. That's right. Oh, you guys are just doing the things here. Okay. And then this one. What do you think, guys? Oh, so easy, right? Pen picker. Oh, see there. But I think Remo has a good idea. It's penny for your thoughts. Somebody in the other class said like Papa Penny. Penny in the cloud. What the pen was. Like a penny for your thought. It's one of like the famous phrases. I think I've heard it in one of the movies, like Hollywood movies. Okay. And then we have the last one. This one is easy. What do you think, guys? Yes. Bird's eye view. That's right. I think this was the easiest one, right? What do you think, guys? Which one was the easiest between all of the, I think the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of all the 6 reverse puzzles, which one was the easiest? Or which one was your favorite? And the last one. Yeah. The 4th. Let's see the 4th. Really? I feel like the 4th like took me a second to get it. But you guys are way smarter than I am. Oh. Out of them, you guys are so smart. Have you heard of any like reverse puzzles? Because I think we only had 6 just for today while we wait for teacher Coco. And you can unmute yourself and like and tell us, like describe it to us, and then maybe we can try and see if we can guess the answer. Anyone? This one is easy. Let's look at the graphs here. What would you do for A? Not really. Remember, y is equal to mx plus c. M stands for gradient. So I think the first thing that you need to do is look for the gradient. Right? Okay, please try to attempt these questions on your own, and then we will share answers together. Since I think I'm not able to write, but let me know your answers in the chat. Like you have to find the equation of the first graph, which is the straight line. First thing that you need to do is to determine the gradient. And the next thing that you need to do is also determine the y-intercept and also the x-intercept. But looking at your graph, you're given 2 points. What's the other point? The first one is this one. And then what's the other point?
0 and 0.
Yes, the point of origin, 0 and 0. That's right. So let's find the gradient. What are you guys getting for the gradient? +3. Well done, Pascal. Is anyone getting a different answer than Pascal's answer? Okay, the gradient is 3, and then you also have to determine the x-intercept. But you really don't have to. I think you just determine C in this case. You can use any of the points to get C. Remember, 3 is M, so that M will be X as bonge. So what would be the graph for A? I mean, the equation of the graph for A. Yes, that's it. Well, and Kele, the equation of the graph for A will be y is equals to 3x. Well done. Okay. Okay. So let's look at B. We know the general equation of a parabola is y is equal to ax squared plus q, right? So what are we given? Let's look at the graph and tell me what are we given in this case? And you can unmute yourself, guys.
Okay.
Yes, Jasmine?
2 points are already given.
Okay. What can you say about this point, the 0 to 3 point? What is it specifically?
The y-axis.
You can say it's like the y-intercept, but what it is specifically?
The q value? No.
Yes, it is the q value, but what it is, it's like a turning point. Can you see that it is a turning point? So it will give us the y value of the turning point. So already we have y is equals to ax squared plus 3, right?
Yes.
Yes. And then what can we do in order to determine A? In this case, what can we do? We know that the turning point gives us the value of Q. The Y value of the turning point is equals to Q. So in this case, Q is equals to 3. And now we want to determine the value of A. What can we do? Oh, well done, Asibonge. Of course, it's like we have to substitute the point 1:1, and then we'll get that A is less than 2. Yes, that's right, Pascal and Yelefi. We know that A, what else will tell us that A will be less than 0? What else? Like looking at the graph, how can you tell that A will be definitely less than 0? Let's look at the shape of the graph. Yes, the frown face, or is
A concave down.
yes, a concave down. So it tells us that A will be less than 0. So if you get A equals to 2 or equals to 3, this means that we must have done something wrong. Okay, teacher Coco is back. I think she can. Do you want to take us through the last question, teacher Coco?
Hi, yeah, sorry, teacher Nels. I've just I've had a bit of a mishap. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me stop
Okay.
sharing.
Thank you. Let me just have a look. Okay, so we're on which question now?
Okay, we just substituted the the point 1:1
Okay.
in the parabola. So we just have to write the final equation.
Okay, excellent. Okay. All right. So, oh, and now this thing isn't going to write for me. Okay. Let me see if this will work. Ah, there we go. Okay, excellent. All right. So we
Okay.
found that A is equal to -2, right? So Y is equal to -2x squared. And if anybody judges me for the way I'm writing right now, I swear I'm going to kill all of you. Plus 3. Woo, teacher Nels, this is worse than when I actually have my stylus. I've just misplaced my stylus. Okay. All right.
Can you
Okay. Let's have a look
maybe
at the
use
last graph.
like a text box?
Yes, I'm thinking maybe I should use a text box instead. Yeah, I'll use a text box. Mirula, yes, I see your lips are zipped. Keep them that way. Keep them that way. Okay, all right, let's have a look at this last graph, the hyperbola that we have over here, guys. Okay, so we're not going to be looking at y is equal to b to the power of x plus q. We're not going to do that today. Okay. Thank you, Ibilio. Okay, I'm coming for you first. All right, so we're going to look at the fact that it's sitting in which two quadrants, guys? Which two quadrants is my hyperbola sitting at? Lesedi,
2 and 4.
I feel you today more than anybody else. Thank you. Thank you, Teacher Jasmine. And again, I called her Teacher Jasmine. And Kele and Yeleti, excellent. It's in quadrants 2 and 4. So we know that A, let me move my text box over here. A needs to equal to a negative answer, right? A is going to be negative. All right, that's the one thing we know for sure. All right, so if it is negative, we now need to find our, what do we need to find for a hyperbola, guys? Two things, two very important things. That's it, Gele. Oh, you're on fire today. Excellent. Good. We're looking for the asymptotes. Good. So can we find the asymptote or the value for Q really? Our Y asymptote is what we're looking for. How are we going to find Q, guys? Who's got an idea? What would Q be equal to? If we look at the graph, just have a look at the graph the way that they've given it to us here. What would our Q value be? Well, it can't be -1 nility. And the reason it can't be -1 is because my graph at Y actually goes through -1. There's my -1 there. So it cannot be -1. Pascal, you're 100% correct. Well done. Atlichang as well. Good. Our Q value over here is going to equal to 0. Right. So we'll have Q is equal to 0. And now look at what I'm doing. Good. Q is equal to 0. So technically this Q part doesn't exist. We're only looking at Y is equal to A over X. Okay, so now if we've got Y is equal to A over X, how are we going to find the value of A? What are you going to do, guys? Good. Yes, we're going to sub in. So all the information that they actually give us on a graph is very important. We can't just pretend that what they've given us over here doesn't actually matter. It does. We're going to have to substitute in this point that they've given us here. Substitute in the X value and the Y value, guys, and give me an answer for A, please. I'm just going to move this over there. Not quite, Pascal. Check again. Check again. That's it. Nyeleti, you've got the right answer there. Okay, good. So I'm going to get -1 is equal to A over 3. Okay, so if I have that, I now need to cross multiply. Cross multiply for me, I should get -3 is equal to A. Give me a thumbs up if this is the answer you got. Excellent, 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 excellent. Okay, good. So the last thing is just to put this all together. Therefore, y will be equal to -3 over x, but our q plus q is just 0, so we don't need to put it in there. That's okay, Pascal. This is where we make mistakes. Don't stress.